Corey.
Hey, are we live?
Yes, we are live.
I'm still eating a snack.
What snack is that?
It's a kind bar.
Oh, nice, dude. I like those.
Yep.
Nutritious. So hey, the Bucks
Hey,
won. Isn't that
that's you.
exciting?
2-0, baby.
We are 2-0. I don't remember the last time we were 2-0 in preseason football.
Interestingly enough, Scott Smith from the Bucks just tweeted it out. 2008 was the last time we were 2-0 in the preseason. That happened to be the last time we were in the playoffs. So
look at that. The Bucks win 30-14. Now we're going to be talking a little bit about the stuff that we saw in the first half, and we're going to be talking about some stuff we saw in the second half. The second half, you said it was a little bit boring, right?
it was a little bit boring. It was sloppy.
There was still some good, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to. Ethan says we basically already won the Super Bowl. I saw 30-14. First thing I want to say is 30 points. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah,
that's
right.
really good. I don't know, what does that mean? We have a combined 56 points in the first two preseason games.
Hey, look at that, scoring points. I am terrified that we're going to score all these points in the preseason, and then regular season starts, and then we're just going to fall flat. We're just talking like a Bucks fan there? I think I sound like a Bucks fan there.
It's okay. It's fine. Hey, it makes sense. But let's start with the first half, okay? So I think the story of the first half, there was a lot of good, there was a lot of bad to the first half, and just the game in general. But one of the big things that I liked was Jameis Winston, right? Jameis Winston looked phenomenal in the first half. And I'll ask you at the end of the stream if for player of the game and whatnot. All in all, what were you impressed with in terms of the first half?
I was impressed with once again, and I said this last week, we are incredibly deep at quarterback and wide receiver, and I think that showed in a big way this game. We have three very, very serviceable. Well, no, we have two very good quarterbacks and one very serviceable quarterback.
Right.
That cannot be said probably for any other team. Maybe one other. I don't know. I don't know every team's depth chart, but most teams I would feel like have one good or really good quarterback, and then the rest is garbage. And so I'm happy that we have quarterback depth and wide receiver depth. I mean, even down to Sergio Bailey, who had an amazing catch there in the second half. I think we're great at the two skill positions. So
yeah, just to go into we'll talk about the quarterbacks first. So things started off, Ryan Fitzpatrick got in and played a little bit, and we said this in the halftime live stream, he looked like Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
On a couple of things, he had a really nice scramble at one point, and then he did some stuff where he looked pretty mediocre, right?
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's definitely a step. Some people took a step back from last week, and some people took a step forward from last week, is something I noticed.
Well, I let me put it this way, and I think this is a kind of across the board. The Bucks went from having the perfect preseason game last week. Just everything went well, and I felt like this game was kind of bringing us back to equilibrium. It wasn't horrible, but it was kind of more of what we expected a little bit more with preseason football. So
right. So Ryan Fitzpatrick came in. He didn't play a whole lot. I think he had around 50% completion percentage, about 40-some yards, no touchdowns, no picks. That's good. We didn't have a lot of turnovers this game, which I thought was still very important. Is because, obviously if you limit turnovers, you're going to win a lot of games. Yeah. After that, Jameis Winston came in. And Jameis Winston looked amazing. He had 200-some passing yards, I believe. Two touchdowns, 14 for 17 or something like that. Jameis looked phenomenal. Obviously he had the one touchdown where, He was falling, and it was a messy touchdown. We've seen Jameis do that a couple of times.
It
Sometimes
was a Jameis Winston touchdown. That was a Jameis Winston special.
right, and he's 50-50 on those, I think, so far. I've seen a couple where it results in a score, which Chris Godwin had the touchdown catch on that one, which it was a very athletic play by him. And then I've seen it go where things just did not work very well for a play like that, and he'll get a really bad interception, and people would be like, Jameis, what are you doing? So it worked out this time. And then his second touchdown that he had was just a beautiful throw, beautiful catch to Justin Watson, right?
Yep.
And I tell you what, if there was one player who really helped his case for the wide receiver battle, it was Justin Watson today, right?
Absolutely. He was probably, and we might go over this, but he's probably my player of the game. I feel like at least he's the one that showed up the most. Like, he's the one that surprised the most, and it looked like he took a step up.
Yeah. So still talking about the first half, the offensive line was pretty on and off. Peyton Barber, I thought, looked good, though, when he did get the ball. I haven't really seen too many bad Peyton Barber runs yet. He's been running with just so much power and so much will. He looks like he's going to be a really good running back for us this year.
I think so. I really like Peyton Barber. He's what we've needed for a long time. I mean, just grab the ball and go. And I'm hoping that will rub off on Ronald Jones. But I'm glad we have Peyton, because Rojo is a project, and having Peyton there makes me feel it helps me sleep at night.
Yeah, absolutely. And then talking about Ronald Jones for a little bit, what were your opinions on him? Because honestly, I didn't see too much to be overly impressed with. What were your thoughts on Ronald Jones for today's game? Because a lot of people are saying in the comments section, which shout out to all of you guys, by the way, 37 of you. If you want to go check out Corey's channel, again, it's going to be in the eye icon on the top right of the screen. Go check it out. We both do Bucs content. We did a pregame live stream over on his channel, so definitely go check that out. But a lot of people in the chat, Corey, are saying that either Ronald Jones didn't get enough carries during this game and enough chances, or it was the backup offensive line, or he was just dancing too much in the backfield.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of all three.
Yeah. I agree. I think the next two games are going to be so if he comes out and he shines in the third preseason game, which, is usually when we have the starters out for most of the game, they're on the field. I think that will be his time. If he does not show up in that third preseason game, number one, that's time to worry. But also, I bet we'll put him out there in the fourth preseason game as well, and he'll get some good carries because so far I haven't seen anything. I agree with everybody in the chat. And me, we've had this discussion before. I was very hesitant on Ronald Jones just based on what I've heard about him. Mm-hmm. And so far, he has not shown me the Ronald Jones that I've seen on the highlight films for the people who were in his corner. So that's not to say he's not that guy. It's not to say he won't be that guy, but he hasn't shown it yet. And hey, this is what preseason is for. He needs to show what he's worth, and he still looks kind of lost out there.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Going back to the quarterback position real quick, I wanted to make a quick note on this. Ryan Griffin came in and looked pretty good in the second half. He had a really nice touchdown to Sergio Bailey, which we'll talk about the wide receiver position in a little bit. But I shout out to Ryan Griffin. He didn't look as good as he did last game, but he looked good. He still looked good. Moving back to the running back position, so we talked about Peyton Barber, we've talked about Ronald Jones. Charles Sims is hurt. He has a knee injury. I don't know the extent of it. I assume a lot of people don't know the extent of it.
I'm keeping an eye on Twitter right now just in case it pops up.
Right. Definitely keep an eye out for this injury because, honestly, from my first thought was some type of ACL. He might have torn his ACL. And Rondé Barber, you weren't watching the local coverage, were you, Corey? You were watching the Titans coverage of it. So in the local coverage, Rondé Barber was kind of like, ooh, that's not good. So if it's a season-ending injury, which, I mean, honestly, even if it was like an injury that required a month's worth of time, they would probably put him on the IR anyway. You got to assume, right?
Yeah, or the pup maybe. I'm not quite sure. Again, I don't know the details of his 1 year contract, but I mean, you might as well waive injure him. Which again, I don't know if they can. I'm hairy on the rules there,
Yeah.
but if he's out for the year, I mean, you have him under contract for a year, so I don't know what happens there.
Yeah,
But hopefully it's nothing. I mean, he was walking around, which I know sometimes it still means he could have an ACL, but walking around's a good sign. So
yeah,
so
he was limping a little bit. He was walking a little bit gingerly, but let's hope he's fine for sure.
yeah.
Um, but moving past that, we didn't see a lot of Jaquiz Rogers this game, did we? Kind of in the passing game and a little bit in the running game, but I didn't see a whole lot to talk about in terms of Jaquiz Rogers. Did you?
No, I mean I saw him a couple times out there, but I mean he was who he is. Nobody really stood out in the running backs except for Peyton Barber. So
I will say this: Sean Wilson and Dare Ogunbowale. That's his name. Dare Ogunbowale. That's what. Okay, there we go. Sean Wilson, I wasn't too impressed with, and he got a good bit of playing time.
Yeah.
I was more impressed with Dare Ogunbowale. He had a really nice 30-yard catch or something later on in the game, in the fourth quarter, from Ryan Griffin. With this Sims injury, and Dare's looking a little bit better than Sean Wilson now, and he looked good in the last preseason game.
Yeah.
Do you see a situation where maybe Ogunbowale can squeeze past Sean Wilson and maybe make this roster? I know what.
Very possible.
Yeah.
I think it's very possible because I mean Sean hasn't earned anything. He's just been the hype guy for a lot of Bucs fans and some of the media. But I wouldn't be surprised if he leapfrogged him. I mean, we're basing this off of just a really small sample size, and there's still 2 more games to go.
Right.
But I wouldn't be surprised. I agree with you. I thought Dare looked a lot better just using the eyeball test. Sean Wilson wasn't terrible, and it's unfortunate that Wilson didn't have a whole lot of opportunity to return kicks. Like he was returning punts and stuff, but he kept having a fair catch.
Right.
And I mean, of course, he made good decisions there, but I would have liked to see what he could do in the return game. He unfortunately didn't get a whole lot of good looks.
Yeah, I completely agree. 48 people here, by the way.
Nice.
So shout out to all you guys. But yeah, it was very interesting to see, and especially with this injury to Charles Sims now, that definitely could open the door for one of them. If I had to say something right now, I would say, if Charles Sims' injury is a little bit longer term and they do end up reverting him to the IR or anything like that, I could see one of them making the roster and then one of them reverting to our specialty or to our practice squad. Sorry.
Yeah, totally.
I think that's a pretty safe bet. Moving on to the wide receiver position, because quite honestly, there wasn't a whole lot from the Alan Cross or Austin Johnson today. But at the wide receiver position, everybody looked pretty good again. The limited time that we saw some of the reserve guys, but Mike Evans looked good. Obviously, Chris Godwin and Deshaun Jackson. Our top 3 guys looked great, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And then going into the reserves, like what you said, Justin Watson had a phenomenal game. He was probably, I think he had the best receiving game out of all the receivers. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, he said, I mean, aside from maybe Chris Godwin, who he had the incredible catch in the end zone from the crazy Jameis Winston pass.
Yeah.
But aside from that, maybe one play, Godwin was doing what Godwin does. Maybe it's just less of a surprise for him. So I think Watson definitely stood out the most because he had more to prove. And, I mean, he made a statement, especially with Bobo Wilson out there. And Bernard Reedy didn't look good. And we didn't really see Martino get a lot of looks. So,
yeah.
Watson won the day for sure.
We'll talk about the kicker later, Jonathan, by the way. Trust me, we will talk about the kicker.
Yeah, have to.
So anyway, Justin Watson looked good. Sergio Bailey had a late touchdown. And with Bobo Wilson out, and with Freddie Martino not getting a whole couple of looks, I thought this was a very important game for Bailey and for Justin Watson in terms of this whole wide receiver battle again. It's heating up. It's heating up for sure. it's definitely something to look forward to in this third preseason game because we're going to see all four of those guys hopefully get a lot of looks,
Definitely.
which should be a lot of fun moving forward. Offensive line play again. We were out with we didn't have three of our reserve offensive linemen. I think it was Cole Bouger, it was Leonard Wester,
Yeah.
and it wasn't Brad Seaton.
Gardner, right?
Cole Gardner, right? Cole Gardner. Thank you. I thought they were pretty on and off. I did not think they had very good run defense throughout the game. Minus Peyton Barber. What were your thoughts on our offensive line?
Yeah, the O line was shaky for sure. There, I mean, even the starters. I mean, I saw the left side even kind of give up some plays there, which is supposed to be our strong side, pun intended. I think. I mean, I remember Donovan Smith had that dumb false start.
Little bit of a disciplinary issue. I will say this, okay. Somebody said our O line played really well. I thought the starters did good. For the most part, in past.
I'm just scared about that right side. I mean, as soon as Dotson was out, it just seemed like the right side was always troublesome. And Jameis, before that crazy touchdown play, got sacked. And I was terrified for him. Like, he was just untouched. The linebacker came in. Maybe it was just a well-timed blitz, but I'm just worried about that right side.
James still takes really ugly ugly sacks. Sorry, he takes really ugly sacks, and it just makes you wince. I will say our backup offensive line. I thought we did good. I thought we did really good in the pass protection. Honestly, for the most part, obviously the Titans do like to blitz, and sometimes they did have their slip ups. I think you mentioned. Didn't Alex Kappa get beat at one point?
Yeah, Alex Kappa's first play in after. Was it Beninock that went out, or
I think Beninock got a little shaken up and went out.
Yeah, Alex Kappa jumps in and immediately gets beat, and the defender got to I think Fitzgerald was in at that time. Maybe it was Jameis, but Fitzpatrick. Immediately the defender blew by him and got the arm of the passer, whichever one it was, and became an incomplete pass. So I was like, all right, well, welcome to the NFL, Kappa. But he did solid after that. So
yeah, I thought the pass protection, was good, but just our running game. And I will say this, and they said this in the local commentary, Corey, and I want your thoughts on this. Do you think the Bucs are transitioning more to a passing style offense compared to a more balancy type offense?
They kind of have to, don't they? I mean, we were kind of.
Or do you feel?
Because Monken is the one calling the plays in the preseason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Dirk Cutter's the one who has been so bullish on establishing the run. I don't know. We'll see. We kind of have to go more pass heavy just because we're so thin at running back until Peyton and Rojo prove themselves as a dynamic 1-2 punch. I'd be kind of scared going to the run pass that Dirk Cutter was so apt to do last year.
What I think is really interesting about Todd Monken calling the plays, maybe this is something that Dirk Cutter will maybe say, hey, okay, well, if we're doing a lot more passing than running, that seems to work. Maybe I'll start incorporating that more into my pass calling during the regular season.
Yeah.
Maybe something to consider, but I don't know.
Maybe.
Head coaches usually tend to be pretty stuck in their ways when it comes to things. So, don't know about that one. Again,
you don't want Jameis throwing 40 passes a game.
No.
There has to be a balance there. I think there's a happy medium in there. I mean, you don't have to go run pass, but at the same time, you don't want to only have 40 yards of rushing game. You got to have that balance there. So
because that was kind of the case today. I think we only had around 50, 60 rushing yards today.
Yeah.
And again, some of that was due to the backup offensive line and just not being very good at run blocking. We were a lot better at pass blocking today. But it is something to keep an eye on moving forward about, all that and whatnot. Going to the defensive line, tight ends, by the way, looked pretty. I liked O.J. Howard today.
Yeah.
Cameron Brate had a really nice catch.
Yeah, he did.
At one point. Just completely held on. It looked phenomenal. Which, by the way, to the 49 of you here, I'm going to say this a little bit more. Go check out Corey's channel. It's the play reaction. It's in the icon at the top right of the screen. So, anyway, Corey, going to the defensive line, is there anybody that you were particularly impressed with or unimpressed with? For example, Noah Spence. We had a couple of sacks this game. But Noah Spence specifically, he kept on getting so close.
Yeah.
But it's the problem he's had ever since we got him. And it's finishing on sacks.
Yep.
He hasn't had a great ability to completely get around the edge and just finish on a play.
Is it a bad sign to you that Noah Spence was there through the end of the game? Is that weird to you?
I saw
it seems to me like they are trying to give him as many opportunities, and he's still not really even beating the third stringers, and that was just concerning to me.
I saw it, and I saw you talk about this with somebody in the chat a few minutes ago. During Rondé Barber and the other person in the local cast noticed this too, and they said, "Oh, why is Noah Spence in here?" And I think what Rondé Barber had tried to explain it away as is, they're trying to get him as many opportunities as he can, as a way to kind of build him up and kind of give him some momentum moving forward. I kind of agree with that, but at the same time, like you said, it's kind of like, if he's like your main rotational pass rusher, you're like, if your ideal defensive line is going to be Vinny Curry, Jason Pierre-Paul, Gerald McCoy, Noah Spence on passing plays, then why do you have him in at the fourth quarter with only like a few minutes left? That's something to look at.
That kind of rubs me the wrong way, and the fact that he wasn't just owning guys. You want, if he's the guy that you're going to rotate in and out on a large basis, I mean, if he's not beating up on the scrubs, then how are we going to expect him to have any kind of impact when we're rotating him in and out? So that's concerning to me. I'm not saying Spence is going to like not do anything. It's just a little bit of a red flag to me. And I'm a little concerned about Spence.
It's definitely something to keep an eye on. For our linebackers, I thought Riley Bullough actually had a pretty decent game. He was around the ball a lot today.
Yeah, which I feel like is indicative of just how he's played. I remember him doing that last year too. He's just always around the ball, which you gotta love from him. He's got a high motor, so.
Yeah, he was pretty much everywhere. Him and Adarius Taylor, I thought both looked really good this game. Adarius Taylor he's per usual. He's a real fringe starter for me. Just for how consistently he just kind of shows up around the ball. Did you see anything from Jack Sitchie today?
I didn't notice anything from him. Did you?
The only time I noticed him was I would see him around on some plays, and then I would see him. I saw him on the Hail Mary attempt. He was way back there, and he was looking. He was around the ball, which is always good. But obviously he still has some stuff to work on. But I thought he did okay. Somebody was saying that Sitchie played a whole lot better than Riley did. That could have been the case.
I had my eyes much on the linebackers in this game. I was looking a lot at the D-line, so.
Yeah, I was kind of... I agree. I was kind of more focused on defensive line and the secondary. And speaking of that secondary, Jordan Whitehead went out at early on in the game, and then MJ Stewart went out early on in the game. But before MJ Stewart went out, he had 2 forced fumbles. What did you think about the secondary today? Because we were working with some spare parts in that secondary for sure. Considering
how many injuries we've had to the secondary, they did a solid job. I mean, I think it really showed how thin we were by the time the second half rolled around, especially in that first Titans drive where they just marched right down the field. But, I mean, considering that, they held the Titans for the rest of the game. So, I mean, that's great on them. And thankfully, I didn't see any other injuries happen other than the ones you mentioned. So, I thought they were good. I mean, MJ Stewart, and we mentioned this at halftime, stepped up in a big way, and that's what we were hoping with Carlton Davis sitting out this game. So that was good to see. Justin Evans took a horrible angle on that first touchdown. The screen pass.
To Tylan Taylor.
Chris Conte missed some tackles, which he does.
I will say this: the discipline. And this is just kind of talking in general, and we'll get to another general thing a little bit later. But what was I trying to say? The discipline in the second half was way better than the first half, for sure. In terms of penalties, in terms of some other stuff. So I think it was pretty interesting. And Steven just said, calm down, it's the preseason. There's still some stuff to look at in these games in terms of backups and just overall
For sure.
certain things to look at. But yeah, at the end of the day, it is preseason, so take everything with a grain of salt as usual. So the secondary, I do want to name one player, and it was somebody who just joined recently. It was Amari Coleman. And I texted you about this because he was wearing number 44, and I was so confused because Dare Ogunbowale wears number 44, and I texted you and I was like, I was so confused because I thought Dare was out there playing defense, and then the local coverage didn't help me because they said, isn't this really crazy that he used to play cornerback and now he's a running back? It's so crazy that he can do both. And I was like, is he actually out there? And I looked, and it was Coleman. I was like, oh, it's Amari Coleman. I thought Amari Coleman looked, out of all the guys who we had, who were remaining, I guess we could say, on this secondary, I liked Coleman a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't see a whole lot of JV and Elliott. Did you?
I did not. I think he flashed a couple times, but yeah, I mean, sometimes a quiet game is a good thing for corners. So yeah, I didn't notice anything great or bad about Javian Elliott.
I will say, quick note to Tywan Taylor. Tywan Taylor looked really good.
He did. Man, he's fast.
He is really quick, and he looked phenomenal this game.
Yeah.
He had some nice plays. Was he drafted?
They might have a really awesome receiver core in a year or two. Once he gets some reps being alongside Corey Davis, they might be pretty dynamic with those two guys.
Yeah,
one punch.
It was definitely impressive. Blaine Gabbert was in the quarterback for the Titans, by the way, which I completely forgot that he was a first-round draft pick. And then I saw him, and I was like, oh my.
I tweeted this out. I went to the Jaguars Bucks game in 2011. It was in Jacksonville. Blaine Gabbert was their quarterback. Had done nothing all year, and he looked like Joe Montana against Tampa. He just carved us up I think the final score was like 41-14 or something.
Mm-hmm. No, I remember that game. It
was Raheem Morris's last year. Oh man, it was so bad.
It's rough. It's rough.
And he hasn't done anything since. So.
Yeah. And then finally, the last thing I want to talk about, kicker Chandler Catanzaro.
Yeah.
Holy crap! Can we talk about that for a minute? He made all of his kicks. That was phenomenal. Yeah, he made all of his kicks. I think he made like some 30-yarder, a 40-yarder, and then like a deep 40-yarder. And I was like, okay, Chandler Catanzaro, he made every single one of his kicks. It was good. Definitely a wonderful time. What were your thoughts on that? Because I winced. I was scared because I didn't want to come back to this, second week in a row and say, all right, guys, it's okay. He only missed it's only one kick. I didn't want to have to come back and say that, and thankfully I didn't have to.
And his extra points. That was a big thing too. He made all the extra points. I tweeted this on. I was hoping we would get to see him try from 50 plus. But it's good to see that he was making all of the ones that he should make. Like anything under 50, he's got to make them, and he did. So that's good. That's something we're not used to suddenly in Tampa. So it's worth celebrating, giving props to him. Hopefully since he had a couple misses last week too, this is the type of thing that would make Roberto Aguayo just completely tank because he had no confidence in himself. Clearly, Catanzaro believes in himself, and clearly he's gotten into a rhythm. So hopefully that means there's more good makes to come from him.
I think this is the first game where the Bucs have had a kicker make all of their field goals in a long time.
Been a while.
I honestly don't remember. Like, obviously, I'm sure there was a game where it happened, but just consistently making every single one of their kicks, and even if you want to get technical, he did technically go 4 for 4 because he had to do a kick twice. It was a good feeling, but I can't I can't shake that feeling of every time he goes to kick, I have to like just sit there like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen, for just a second, People are saying that they're worried about his range, 48 plus. He might not be able to make it.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to see him attempt some. I'm a little worried about his range, but I don't know. Maybe that's being too greedy at this point.
Yeah, it is something to be concerned about, but hopefully we're in a situation where he doesn't have to go 48 plus, you know, hopefully. But Corey, we've been going now for about a half hour. We're probably gonna wrap this up because I know you have to get up early.
Yep.
And I'm sleepy as well, so you know how it is. But I do want to ask you, if you had to pick, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but if you had to pick a player of the game and you had to pick a play of the game, what would you pick and why? And everybody in the chat can give their player of the game and their play of the game as well. But for you specifically, if you had to pick a player or play of the game, who would you pick and why?
Player of the game. You know what? This, and maybe this is being unique, maybe it's not, but I mentioned this before. Justin Watson just stands out in my brain as the guy who made the biggest statement. And I kind of, for a preseason game, that's the kind of person that gets the player of the game for me. I think he is now a favorite to win a position. And I know he's down there fighting with a bunch of people, but I really think, especially as a recent draft pick, he's got a leg up, and he looked great. I think somebody on Twitter, was it Tommy? I think it might have been Tommy or somebody else, called him, said he's the next Jordy Nelson, which I would love to see. He's definitely got the body type and the stature, so hopefully we can see more good things from him.
That would definitely be pretty impressive. And then for your play of the game, the Chris Godwin touchdown, probably, right?
The player that we'll see. Now, I'm not going to say that one because we don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
But I will say there were two plays stood out in my mind, both of them from Jameis. One of them was the other touchdown that Jameis had in the under 2 minutes. And was that to God? No, that was to Watson, right? That was a beautiful throw, beautiful catch, and he had another beautiful throw leading up to that too. I think the play of the game for me was the one that I missed thanks to watching the Titans broadcast, and that was the deep pass to Deshaun Jackson.
That was a good play.
It finally happened, guys. Jameis connected with Deshaun Jackson deep, and that's something that I hope is indicative of things to come, and that's the thing that makes me most excited. So I'm going to go with that one as the play of the game.
It's something we all needed to see, right?
Absolutely.
It's definitely something we all needed to see. So your play of the game was the Jameis Winston to Deshaun Jackson touchdown.
Well, not touchdown, but
sorry, not touchdown, long pass. And then your player of the game was Justin Watson, correct? Right?
That's correct.
Okay. For me, again, obvious pick is obvious. I mean, honestly, yeah, I'm going to mess around. I'm going to say the player of the game is Chandler Catanzaro. Okay. Because he's done something we haven't seen in such a long time. He made all of his kicks.
Yep.
And I get it, yes. His range, I know. But I'm just going to enjoy the moment that we actually had a game where our kicker made every single... He went 4 for 4 field goals, essentially. And however many extra points he made, that was just wonderful. It was a great thing. And then for my play of the game, I'm going to go with the Winston to Watson touchdown. Just the throw was on the money. Yep. The catch was even more on the money. It just looked great. It just looked great. It was pretty phenomenal. But Corey, we're gonna wrap this up. Moving on to week 3, obviously we're gonna be talking about it at some point. But is there anything you want to say in terms of final words? Oh, we're 2-0. We're 2-0. That's good in the first start. But if you have any final thoughts, what would they be?
Well, imagine if we start 2-0 in the season. That would be amazing.
It would be amazing, but it'd be terrifying at the same time because then everybody would be calling for Fitzpatrick to be the starter.
Somebody in the chat brought up, and we can't say enough how good the linebackers and the corners did, specifically in that first half with MJ having as good of a game as he did. It makes me excited that we have some playmakers at linebacker and in the secondary. Jordan Whitehead was out this game, and he seems to be a ball hawk, just like Justin Evans. So we have Carlton Davis, who was out this game. Did Brent Grimes even play? I didn't even see him.
I didn't see him a whole lot.
So he may have played, but he's Brent Grimes. So there's a lot of guys in the secondary to be really excited about. And so, yeah, we're not deep, obviously, because if we hit injuries, we look like we did. But we didn't run a whole lot, but we were efficient and put up a lot of points. And while it was a sloppy game, and I want us to not have all these penalties and stuff, and it wasn't as exciting as the first game, I came off in this game optimistic.
Yeah.
And I am satisfied with this game. And also, no major injuries except for Charles Sims, which really hurts him, but it's overall that's not a loss for us. So
yeah. Well, Corey, hey, thank you so much for being on. To the remaining about 24, 25 people who are still watching this, go check out Corey's channel. Again, it's the play reaction. It's in the eye icon in the top right of the screen. We both do Bucks content. We did a pre-game talk on Corey's channel. We did post-game talk for preseason week 1, and then Corey has a lot of content coming out soon. And we will be working together throughout the entirety of the season, so it's going to be a lot of fun, and we hope to see all of you guys there. As always, guys, we will see you in the next video or live stream, but until then, and as always, goodbye for now, guys. See ya, and go Bucks.